This is Dustin J. Marquez coming to you taped once again from the gem along the Colorado River, Laughlin, Nevada, bringing you another edition, our return edition, of Bowling Evolved. Joining me, as always, is my partner in crime, my good friend, the PBA millionaire, the man with the golden left hand. We called him Gillette because he's the best you can get, the one and only Eric Forkel. Eric, how are you doing tonight?
Well, we're still doing this thing? Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Wow. I thought maybe this was like a repeat or something, a rerun of a couple other shows. Well, it's good to be back doing this for the upteenth time.
Absolutely. I was hoping I woke you up from your slumber. I know it's been so long since we've gotten together and actually recorded something, so I didn't know if you were still awake during these things.
No, believe it or not, I am awake. I'm still functioning, and I'm glad we get to do another show.
As am I. This show is going to be a little different than some of our other shows, as this is actually going to be more of a teaser, kind of let you guys know what's going on. We're going to focus a little bit on the World Series. Eric, of course, just got done bowling the World Series of Bowling in Las Vegas. But we want to kind of talk about where we're doing with Bowling Evolved. Some people have written in knowing that the site has been down, where our future is, and this is something that is a Facebook and YouTube exclusive. So obviously, if you have friends that did follow Bowling Evolved from the website, you gotta tell them to get on Facebook. I mean, really, who's not on Facebook anymore?
Everybody is on Facebook.
So with that being said, let's jump right into it. Eric, we had the World Series of Bowling. You, of course, competed again. I believe that what number World Series was this for you?
Second
World Series you've competed in.
Right.
A lot of amazing experiences. First and foremost, before we get into anything, let me just say congratulations on shooting 300 during the World Series of Bowling, which is quite an accomplishment in itself.
Thanks. I mean, that was, I hadn't shot 300 on tour since, it's been at least 10 years, considering I've been gone from the tour for about 7 or 8 years. So to shoot 300 again was kind of cool, kind of unexpected. That was the highest scoring block. The cheetah is normally very high scoring, and I caught a pair that just carried, and I got up there in the 10th frame and was fortunate enough to make 3 good shots, and they all carried, which is one of the few times I carried the whole tournament, but I did. And that was kind of cool. That kind of brought back a few memories. That was kind of nice.
Well, definitely got some buzz going. And Eric, let's talk about the World Series and let's talk about your year in bowling in general. Obviously, you've had a pretty interesting year. You've made a TV show on the senior tour. You've cashed in a variety of tournaments. We've had, definitely, if those who listen to our show know of your ups and downs, but what did the World Series mean to you to compete again? How did you get yourself prepared, and how would you summarize your career this year?
Well, it's, I always think it's kind of a cool thing to be able to compete against those guys again, and honestly, to be honest with you, thinking you're going to them or to those guys is not overly realistic, considering I don't bowl for a living anymore. Obviously, I'm much older than a lot of those guys, even though a couple of the older guys bowled very well, but those are some of the greats, the Hall of Famers. You expect them to bowl well regardless. But like I told you once before, we did a lot of bike riding, so my legs felt pretty good. I wish my timing was always good, game after game, frame after frame, but it kind of went up and down. I had my good runs, my bad runs, and every block I seemed to run into a couple of bad games that would just shoot me down. I was pretty consistent having a bad 1 or 2 games every 7-game block. And because of the format, you get one shot at it. You get 7 games, and if you don't have it all figured out, the other guys will run you over. It's not like in the old days where you could bowl a 6-game block and then come back later on and bowl another 6 and then maybe bowl another 6. Those days are over. It's basically a 7-game crapshoot. You better have your game on. You better have your equipment lined up. And you better not glitch more than a game. If you glitch more than 1 or 2 games, you're done. You ain't going to make it.
How would you compare the format, for example, like say the Senior U.S. Open in comparison to the World Series of Bowling? How would you compare the formats, and what would you prefer?
Oh, well, more games, of course. Anybody would like to have more rounds of, in between squads. You can get some work done, practice, drill some balls, come back, regroup. I think most of the guys would prefer not to just have a 7-game crapshoot, because that's really what it is. Think about it. You got to crisscross the house. You skip 6 to 10 pairs, it seems like almost every game. You go all the way through the house. You catch one side, catch the other. You catch this pair, catch that pair. And again, if you have a couple of bad games or you're just not striking enough at that time, you're done. That tournament is over. So what do you do? Then you come back the next day, get ready for the next pattern. It's a very unique thing. I know why they did it, because obviously they're trying to save money, trying to get things over done quicker, faster. But if you think about it, in essence, you can bowl 14 tournaments and lead a tournament and win a tournament basically in 14 games. That's the format. In other words, you bowl 7 games. If you make the top 24, they bowl 7 more qualifying games, then they cut to the top 4. And then they have a TV show a week or so later, whenever it is. So the point I'm getting at is, how interesting is it you can win a national title bowling only 14 games, where back in the day you would bowl 18 qualifying, 24 games of match play. You're looking at 42 games in the major. It's just really hard to believe that you can win a title after 14 games, considering it used to be 42.
Do you think it's better, though, for the PBA to have the shorter formats, or do you think that I guess let me rephrase that. Do you think it's better to have that for the bowlers, the shorter formats, to try to attract more bowlers to the tournaments, or do you think it'd be better if the PBA went back to the old style?
Well, I mean, you're asking an old style kind of guy, so of course I think the players would prefer the old thing, of course, but they can't have it. It's either this or nothing.
Sure.
Basically, they got like 6 or 7 tournaments here in 1 week. That used to be almost 2 months of the tour. They've taken 2 months of the tour and put it into 6 days or 5 days. It's just uncanny, but they just have no other choice, or they have nothing. So when guys don't have nothing, they're going to take this and just going to go out there and bowl. And if I had to think, a lot of guys would not like this. Of course they don't like this, but they don't have a choice. It's either this or nothing, and this is better than nothing. But it's just such an unbelievable crapshoot. It really is. It's kind of ironic. At the end, you bowl the four squads or 4 different patterns. Then they take the top 24, go to the World Championship. A couple guys, or one guy, Ryan Simonelli, he made 2 TV shows during the week, right? Mm-hmm. So you think he'd be a lock for the top 24. No, he missed by 10 pins. So think about that. He made 2 TV shows out of 4 patterns and did not make the top 24 for the World Championship.
That's really tough.
That's tough to do.
That's really tough. Now, let me ask you this as well. Of course, first off, you finished 73rd out of the 230 entries in the tournament. So obviously, nothing to be ashamed of, I don't think.
No.
73rd in the world is not necessarily a bad number to be at.
No.
Go ahead. No, please.
No, I can look at this, and there's many different ways to look at it. When you're competing, you get so aggravated when every round you have a bad game, which you wish you can get rid of that bad game. I mean, it'd make a world of a difference. They pay the top 60 top 60 get a check in the World Championship, and I was 73rd, so I wasn't too far away there. Today was the Scorpion pattern. I think it was 96 over. It took 150 over to make the finals, and 1-4. So I missed the cash by 50 and the finals by 60. I mean, it's really, in 7 games, that's a hit here, hit there at the right time. It is that close. So in that way, it's frustrating. And if I ever do want to do this again, which I don't know. When it's over, I always say never again, but next year, who knows. But yeah, when it's over, I'm like, I can't compete anymore. I don't know why I bother. But after a while, you go, well, maybe, that's the bowler in everybody. They never want to. Sometimes I think it has passed me by, but when you get out there and shoot some big games and you're bowling, you catch a run and you're bowling well, you're like, well, I could still do it. But the trick is to do it, to know the moves. You've got to be quicker with the moves. You got to know your equipment ridiculously. You can't give away too many frames because there's too many great bowlers in this tournament, and they just run you over. It really is something. I mean, Parker, for instance, the first in the Cheetah was like 370 or 80 over. And would you believe he did not make the top 24 for the World Championship? He missed it by 40 pins because his next 3 rounds he didn't bowl so good. So he did make the one TV show. Of course, he's the leader. But the point I'm getting at, you figure when you start off almost 400 over, you'd think you're going to get another 200 over your next three rounds, and he did not. So that's just part of it.
That kind of answers my question I was going to bring up was, would you participate in this again? Obviously, sounds like if the opportunity presents itself again, you may very well do it.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, I've got a very good sponsor who wanted to put me in, and we still have a couple tournaments to go. There's a big regional this Friday. It's called the All Regions Regional. And then there's a member, non-member doubles on Saturday. So that kind of ends it there. And then they do their TV show tapings on Sunday. So technically there is 2 more tournaments to bowl, and I have to kind of take a day off to heal up a little bit and regroup and get some practice in on Thursday and go at it again Friday. And hopefully the carry will be a little bit better than what it was for these 4 days, with the exception of a games here and there.
Well, I'm sure our listeners appreciate kind of getting in the mindset of what it means to bowl these tournaments and how they come about. Do you have any final thoughts as far as if you were to change something? Now, obviously we talked about the games, but is there anything else about these tournaments that you would change? Be it the location, be it the time frame in which they're bowling. I know they do them all at the same time for financial reasons, but is there anything else in particular that you see as an issue that you wish you can change, other than, of course, the amount of games bowled?
Well, I mean, I think a 7-game block is a weird number. I mean, I've heard of 6-game blocks, 8-game blocks, 10-game blocks. They pick 7, I think, probably so they can get things done in a reasonable amount of time. I still find that as an odd number. You think, well, if you make it 8 games or 9 games or even 10 games, heck, I think it should be a 10-game block. Let them bowl 10 games each day. It's going to take a little longer, of course, and maybe the house doesn't want that, but I just keep thinking in my mind, 7 games is like nothing. It's like, we used to bowl 6-game blocks out on tour, and they went by pretty quick, but we bowled 3 of them. You bowl 2 one day and come back the next day and bowl another 6. Mm-hmm. But, the tournaments lasted longer, each tournament. This way they can get more tournaments in a shorter time. I understand it, and believe me, it's all strictly financial. There ain't no other reason that anybody on the planet would like this format. But that's why they do this. They're saving money to do this. But really, for a player, I think it sucks. I think it's terrible. But for everybody else, it's fine. It's great. They love it. They've got, 238 entries at $750 a shot. I don't know what those numbers are, but that's where they're making their money.
Look, now, let me ask you this. This might be kind of an odd question, but would you think that these shorter formats might actually be an advantage to and don't take this the wrong way, but some of the senior bowlers, that they could last a little longer against some of these younger guys?
I don't know, because out on the senior tour, they bowl 2 8-game blocks of qualifying, 16 games, and then they have sometimes round robin, sometimes the elimination, but they actually bowl more games out on the senior tour than they do on the regular tour. So I think, the guys who are in decent shape, like Tommy Baker made a couple finals. Ron Moore usually does great on the senior tour. He didn't have a good tournament this week. But there was a handful of course, Weber's 50, Parker's 50, Walter Ray's 50. I mean, there's a handful of guys. But the point I'm getting at is those guys are used to bowling a lot of games. They're horses, They've been around doing this for years. They don't know anything less. They have aches and pains, but they're just horses. They're strong. But I always think they would all prefer more games. There's no doubt in my mind that nobody likes a 7-game tournament done. Nobody does.
Well, my final question, and before we run into what we're doing with the future of Bowling Evolve, any predictions for the World Championship? Some of the names on the list. Don Barrett obviously had an amazing run, leading by, I believe, 200 pins as of right now. Some other names on there, Brian Smith, as you mentioned, Pete Weber, Tommy Baker, Dave Waka, E.J. Tackett, Dick Allen, of course, Belmo and Tom Smallwood, Mika are all out there. Anyone in particular you think is going to make the final run there?
Well, there's a kid from Houston. It's like his first big tournament, another two-handed player. He led today. He was like 300 and something over on the long pattern. I don't know the pattern for the World Championship. I think it's long. By the way, all the patterns the volumes were increased, the lengths were increased. In other words, besides the cheetah, all the other patterns were 3 feet longer. They all played longer. Matter of fact, the last pattern we bowled on played almost 50 feet. It was like 47 or 48 feet. The one before that was like 45 feet. All the patterns were longer. They used different oil this year, different volume. And the two-handed players still do very well. They still were fairly dominant on this. So I don't be surprised that kid from Houston does very well.
I believe
he'd be coming out of nowhere, but I could see that happening.
I believe his name's Sean Maldonado.
Sean Maldonado. Yeah, he's from Houston area. He's another young kid, two-handed player. And Belmo's up there. He's up there. All the high rev guys, of course. It's always conducive on these patterns. And there's one left-hander made the top 24. Paul Moore from England. Very good player. He's one of the best top players in Europe. One of the best left-handers in Europe, of course. He was the only lefty to make the top 24, which is pretty amazing. So if things go the right way for him in match play, he's got it all to himself, so to speak. If he can get lined up if he gets lined up properly to that pattern, he's got it all to himself. He's got 24 games. Don't think that he couldn't make that TV show either.
Well, we'll have to look to see if your prediction is correct, and we'll see who is going to be there at the end. Hopefully we'll get the show up pretty quick so people will be able to listen to it. Obviously, there's not going to be a lot of frills with this show. This is kind of more of an update, let you guys know we're still plugging away out here. Before we move on, I do want to say real quick, bowling did lose a good friend for a lot of people. Double D, Dave D'Entremont, passed away, I believe, last week, or was it the week before, Eric?
Oh, I think it was a week or so ago. Yeah, that was kind of sad. I mean, I bowled against Dave for a lot of years out on the tour. Great champion, 5, 6, 7-time champion, TSC winner. And for a big man, he threw the ball great. Big rev rate. I mean, he had a good hand. He was smooth though, but he had a great finish, and he threw the ball fast. And he was a good guy, nice guy. And it's a shame. I know he fought this illness for a long time. Matter of fact, my last couple of years out there, early 2000s, he was always struggling to breathe. You know, he had some kind of like a respiratory problem, a lung problem that just obviously as he got older, it got worse and worse and worse. And you know, I heard he was a bit of a smoker maybe when he was younger, and who knows if that accelerated this whole thing. And then it got to a point where it just turned chronic, and there's nothing I guess there was nothing they could do for it, and sadly, it took his life.
Well, definitely our condolences out to his entire family and everyone, friends and family included. We had some very hard hits this year as far as losses in the bowling world, but their memories will continue on, and I know that fortunately for people like yourself and me and everyone that listens, I'm sure that has a respect for the past, his name and everyone else's will be remembered fondly.
Yeah, you have to look at the past to it helps you move on to the future sometimes. And you know, last year I believe it was Tony Reyes, and now this year it was Dave D'Entremont. And you know, it always seems to be somebody.
Of course, our good friend Gurney as well.
Oh, can't forget Mr. Gurney. Speaking of Mr. Gurney, we are gonna. Did you tell everyone about what we're doing with our tournament in Laughlin?
Not yet. That's actually we're gonna flip gears here and kind of talk about the future of our talk show, what we're planning on doing with Bowling Evolved. First off, I want to say thank you to everyone that has sent us messages and emails and etc. We appreciate how much you guys enjoyed the show. I know we don't have a huge fan base. What is it, Eric? 7 fans now?
God, I thought it was like 5 or 6. We even got 7. That's pretty good. I like that. That's a good number. Seven fans for 7 games. There you go. 7 fans for 7 games of qualifying.
Yes, and I want to say also thank you very much. One of our fans even nominated me for a Community Achievement Award for Bowling Evolved, which from the bottom of my heart, I was a finalist in the Laughlin Community Achievement Awards, which actually goes into Arizona, Nevada, and California. So that was fantastic. So thank you very much for that.
Very cool.
Yep. But yes, Bowling Evolved is going to be taking a new direction. We were planning on doing a Kickstarter campaign, which has kind of been side-railed by some of the issues with Kickstarter, which I will not get into at this time. Needless to say, I've had some very unique emails back and forth as far as that has gone, but that's another story for another time. We do plan on having another Laughlin Cup. Of course, our first Laughlin Cup, which was won by Jonathan Farrell, was a big hit. We had a lot of fun times with that. Some great bowlers came out and participated. Eric, I know you and I would probably be more than happy to do the announcing and TV coverage on that one more time.
We will definitely do it. Hopefully this time, if I compete, I will let somebody else take my spot, and I'll be in that finals, because that would be kind of cool.
Of course, at the same time, maybe I'll even pick up a ball this year and bowl. Who knows?
Don't scare us. Don't scare anybody.
Yeah, I did finally get back out on the lanes after 2 months. What do you want from me?
That's good. You need to do that, because if we're going to talk about bowling, past, present, and future, you need to throw bowling balls.
Absolutely. But with that being said, we do have a very happy announcement that we will be renaming the Laughlin Cup to the Barry Gurney Laughlin Cup in memory of our good friend Barry Gurney, one of the finalists on the show. Eric and I had the privilege of calling his last televised appearance in bowling. And I'll tell you, I had a chance to speak with his wife, and she was so thrilled. And Barry was such a supporter of our show and bowling in general. I really feel like that this is something that he really would have enjoyed.
Yeah, I think the Laughlin Cup Barry Gurney Memorial will be I think that's a nice touch. He used to like to come to Laughlin quite often for the West Coast Seniors Tour, and he was always a big supporter of that, and they loved going there. So, why not put the tournament in his name and make it a memorial, like I thought would be a nice touch, and I think it's very cool, and I know he'll be looking over us, and he'll definitely appreciate it in his humble way. He'll say, you really shouldn't have done this, but no, I think we should, because I know he enjoyed being on staff, and he enjoyed our podcast, and because he loved to talk bowling, and you interviewed him many times, and he had a lot of stories. That's what happens. You get old, you get a lot of stories.
Yeah.
That's the way it is.
I have nothing but good memories, and you're absolutely right. I think we talked about that once before, but yeah, I could always hear him in the back of my mind saying, you guys really don't have to do this, but I think you're absolutely right. This is exactly what we have to do, and
it's the right thing to do.
Bowling was a lot better with him in it, and his memory will live on with the Laughlin Cup. I also will mention that there will be a few raffles involved with the Laughlin Cup this year. We'll have some bowling balls to give away from Motive, some other equipment, and bowlingbutler.com is going to be providing us some dry sacks, which is really neat. We talked about them on the show before. They actually have a biodegradable material, so it doesn't leave a residue.
Right.
It's some materials, and all the proceeds from the fundraisers will actually be going to the Molly J. Bradley Youth Fund for the kids. So all the money that comes in for the raffles will go straight to the kids 100%, and I think that would be something that will benefit the future of bowling.
Excellent. Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of good things coming out of this, and it's going to be a cool event, and I'm looking forward to it. Maybe we'll get some shirts made up that say that maybe somebody can put some shirts with the Laughlin Cup Barry Gurney Memorial. That'd be kind of cool.
Sure. We'll throw that out to our listeners. If anyone's interested, please let us know. You can always contact us at bowlingevolved@gmail.com. Of course, the website is down for the time being. We are rebuilding a new website, a new and improved website, I should say, with more interactivity. Of course, our Facebook page is always active. Haven't done a lot in the last month or so.
Good. I get a new picture. I don't like our picture on the website. I want a new picture.
We will get that taken care of at one of these points. At some point,
all right.
We'll get that taken care of. Again, those are things that are going to be coming up. We have some other news in the works, possibly taking Bowling Evolved to a little bit different area. That's more on that in the future. I can't promise when we're going to have another show here. Hopefully it'll be sooner than later. I know I'd like to touch base again with Eric after his time with the new tournaments, and there's always something new coming up. But again, with everything being built, we want to wait until everything's pristine, ready to get going. But for the time being, I think we'll be able to put out a couple updates, let everyone know what's going on. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for your guys' support. It really means a lot to me.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to the future, and we're going to get some really good guests to come on the show. I've got a list that I've been putting together of people I think will be very interesting. I think we're going to dive into the ball reps from all the ball companies. I definitely would like to have them on to discuss product and discuss why their stuff is the best. And I think it'll be kind of interesting to see why each one thinks they're so good. I think that might be an interesting topic. Why are your bowling balls the best on the market? And we'll have discussions, because obviously you represent Motive, I represent Storm, but there's Brunswick, Ebonite, all the other companies out there, and I think they should all have a chance to have their fair say. And I think it'll be very interesting, and hopefully our listeners will enjoy that.
Absolutely. By the way, Eric, I had a chance to look at your list here. Why is it that your name is on the guest list for every single show? I don't really understand.
What guest list?
Interviewing Eric Forkel every single week. That's going to be my new thing.
Well, that's not bad. I'll be here. You don't have to look too far to find me. And it's not a bad. It's not. I got a lot to talk about, but believe me, there's a lot of people out there I think would be very interesting to have on the show, and hopefully they'll want to come on. At least I think they will.
We've had some great guests. I mean, everyone's enjoyed themselves, so I think it'd be great. But with that being said, that is going to take us to the end of our little half-hour segment here. I appreciate you guys all tuning in and listening. Quick couple of plugs here. I want to throw a shout-out to bowlingbutler.com. Bowling Butler, again, with the Grip Ease dry sacks. Eric and I have both used them. Erica, they are a fantastic little product.
Matter of fact, I used them often this week. It's nice, very good. Keeps your hand nice and dry, and definitely takes the moisture out and gives you a nice feel of that bowling ball. So I would highly recommend it to anyone.
Absolutely. Anyone that hears that, please check out bowlingbutler.com for all of their products. Also, a big thank you to Storm and Motive Bowling for providing equipment, helping Eric and I along the way. They are, been very good to us. Motive especially, a big thank you to Scott Wilbur as well for providing some equipment that we're going to be giving away during the Laughlin Cup. And, of course, a big thank you to all of our listeners again. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, for Eric Forkel, I've been Dustin J. Markowitz. Have a great night.
Good night.